Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Check, 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 check. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's live stream. Great to have everyone here with us this evening. Hurricane Milton 8 p.m. advisory has been issued from the National Hurricane Center here just a few minutes ago, and it remains a Category 5 hurricane with winds of 165 miles per hour this evening, and it is headed toward the west central portion of the Florida coastline late in the day tomorrow evening, and we'll be moving across through the morning and the first half of the day on Thursday across portions of central Florida. So a lot to get into this evening. Again, if you're just joining the broadcast, welcome. Thank you for being here this evening. Absolutely a significant storm system that we are looking at here. Be sure to do me a favor. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Share the video out on your Facebook page. And you can also like the video as well to be able to do that. We're also going to be simulcasting this here in just a moment. I'm working on getting our Facebook live video up here as well. So we're just trying to get this out to as many people and places as possible right now. So we're cross-posting that. Okay. So again, 8 p.m. advisory here. I don't know what it's missing. There we go. All right, and there we go. All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this evening's live stream. My name is Joseph Pisani. Great to have everyone here on with us this evening. We are broadcasting on our YouTube channel and here on our Facebook page as well to discuss the latest on Category 5 Hurricane Milton. So as I was just mentioning here over on the YouTube live stream, Hurricane Milton is still a Category 5 hurricane as of the 8 p.m. advisory. Winds do remain at 165 miles per hour, and we are going to really see it I think it's going to maintain this intensity for a little while longer before we begin to see any sort of weakening with this. So let's kind of jump right over here to what we have. So here what we're looking at is that we could see this potentially come on the south side of the Tampa Bay area, which would be a huge break in a sense for downtown Tampa, St. Pete, if this track were to verify and the storm were to drop off to the south of Tampa. Again, it's still a little too early to tell, but some of the models are showing it kind of coming up toward Florida and then kind of hanging a little bit more of a hard right turn going across Florida and coming up more towards Palm Bay, Florida, and like I had mentioned over here toward south of Sarasota and Venice Beach and those areas. Let's take off the storm surge watch some more. Yeah, here Port Charlotte would get Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, that area would probably receive some of the worst storm surge if that were to happen. But again, we've seen this track change. We've seen it north. We've seen it right over Tampa, and now it's showing south of Tampa. We're really going to have to wait and see kind of what happens here with Milton as it now begins moving off to the east-northeast. And eventually we are expecting, another reason I think that this track kind of shifts further south is because it's gotten a little bit further east than they were initially thinking. So it really hasn't taken that northeastward track that we've all been waiting for it to do. But we are expecting that here to begin here rather quickly. So here is the latest satellite imagery here of Milton. And we can see here compared from what we were looking at last night to tonight that Milton is definitely a much stronger storm. The eye wall obviously is much larger. It was amazing to see that last night that eye wall was down to about 3.6 miles wide. And to put that into perspective, the El Reno tornado in Oklahoma was about 2.7 miles wide. So, I mean, you could think of it. I mean, there possibly could have been condensation, literally going all the way down to the ocean surface with that pinhole eye that we saw last night. But now, obviously, the eye is much larger, and we're again beginning to really see that northeastward moving here, especially beginning, I'd say, really here within the last hour. We're definitely starting to see a little bit more of that northeastward motion that we've been anticipating. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as far as the motion on in the track. Let me come back here. Let's go back out a little bit wider on this so we can get Florida back in the picture. So you can see it's kind of moving east, and now it's starting to kind of get a little bit more of that north eastward movement to it. So that's going to be crucial to see where that landfall here occurs along the Florida west coast. So let me real quick pull this off so I can see any comments that are coming in here on the Facebook and YouTube. Feel free to drop those in. I can definitely I can see those and be able to answer any comments or questions that you guys have during tonight's live stream. So again, right now, Category 5, which we were expecting this. We did see that weakening down to Category 4 with that eyewall replacement cycle, and then earlier this evening bumped back up to a Category 5, and here as of the 8 p.m. advisory, still holding strong at a Category 5, 160 mile per hour winds, as it now is moving away from the northeast coast, from Cancun, Mexico area, in the south central Gulf of Mexico. So let's take a look at the models. How first of all, before we even get into that, for those of you that are wondering, okay, if I stayed in Florida, it may be really, at this point, it's getting to be too late to evacuate. You could potentially be putting yourself in more of a hazardous situation than it's worth depending on traffic. Especially tomorrow, we're going to start seeing those tropical storm conditions really starting to come in. So how are you supposed to survive Hurricane Milton if you're still in Florida? A couple things to bear in mind. We always say this: run from the water and hide from the winds, right? The reason you run from the water is because when that storm surge comes in, if it's 10 or 15 feet right there along the coast and you're there, you've got to get to higher ground, right? Because that water, it comes in fast. It's not like when you're at the beach and you're seeing the low tide or the high tide, it's just a gradual coming in. No, this comes in really fast, almost similar to like a tsunami type of situation. Maybe not quite that fast, but you get the idea that it can happen literally within a matter of minutes. You could go from nothing to having 2 or 3 feet to then within another 20 or 30 minutes having 4 or 5 feet, and in an hour be up to 8 to 10 feet or whatever happens at your location. So you've got to run from the water. The second thing is you've got to hide from the winds. Now, obviously, right now, Hurricane Milton does have a relatively small wind field. But when we're looking at this, we can see all this dry air, and we're expecting to start seeing kind of some of this entrainment kind of happening here on the southern side, and this to kind of become more lopsided here on the northern. All this bright green, we'll see more of that kind of begin wrapping around, especially on the northern side of the hurricane. So again, even if this were to go south of Tampa, you guys are definitely not out of the woods of this by any means as far as the impacts go there in Tampa, because the northern side of the northern eye wall, and especially the northeastern eye wall, there is obviously where it will be the worst. Here, and typically in this right front quadrant, is where we get the worst storm surge and the worst impact. So you can also kind of, depending on the angle that it comes in here on the coast, that also has a big impact on the surge. And we'll start seeing the storm surge coming in to the Florida coastline as early as tomorrow. Sometimes with these Category 4, Category 5 hurricanes, we'll see the storm surge actually begin even before landfall happens. Sometimes up to a couple of hours before the landfall actually happens, you'll start to see that storm surge come in ahead of it, as it's just pushing. It's already been pushing that water up toward the coast even now. So the waves are starting to, I'm sure, get choppier out there, and those type of things. So run from the water, right? Second thing, hide from the winds. So you want to make sure that you are in a interior room of a sturdy structure. So don't be in a mobile home, right? Those are not going to survive hurricane force winds. They will get tossed like a toy. So be in a sturdy structure, preferably a concrete building, right? Away from windows, and be mindful of your height. So if you live in a tall apartment complex building, right, or a high rise, right there along the coast, wind increases with height. So you want to put yourself on a lower level of the building that is not prone to storm surge. So probably if you're right along the coast, right, or right on the bay, you don't want to necessarily be on that first floor of that building because it is going to be prone to that storm surge. Potentially even the second floor in some places if we start seeing those storm surge values getting up to, say, 15 feet in a few isolated places, wherever kind of that northeast corner comes right in. So you want to be really right on the second floor potentially of a concrete structure, interior room, away from windows. Now even if it has, hurricane rated glass, that's for the winds. You also have to think of projectiles that are flying through the air potentially at 125 miles per hour or faster with those wind gusts, which could be closer to 150 miles per hour at times right there in the eye wall. Now obviously not everywhere is going to be getting 125 mile per hour winds or 150 mile per hour wind gusts, but there are going to be some locations that will see those type of winds most likely, and that will be absolutely devastating for those areas. So if that's where you end up being, you're going to have to basically treat this like a long-term tornado, right? With the exception of going to the basement, right? But be in an interior room, put as many walls between you and the outside of that building as possible to protect yourself from any flying debris flying through the air at, upwards of, 150 miles per hour potentially, because you want to save your life. Also, it's always a great idea too, if you don't or do have, wear a helmet, right? Like a bike helmet even, to protect your head from any potential like falling debris. So like if the ceiling starts caving in, or tree branches kind of come through the roof and stuff like that, knock some of that sheetrock and 2x4s down, it's going to be a good idea to make sure that you protect your head as well. Make sure that right now, while there's still power, you need to be charging every single portable battery charger that you have, like for your phones. Make sure you've got fuel. I know there have been fuel shortages that have been already reported across much of central Florida. So make sure you have that in a handy location. Also, really, really important, can't stress this enough, never, and I mean never, operate a generator indoors, not even in a garage, okay? Because of the air currents in a house and different things like that, it can actually pull that carbon monoxide into the house, which is a odorless, colorless poison gas, and it can sadly cause fatalities to occur. And I hate to say it, but I feel like anytime we have these major landfalling hurricanes, there are always a few fatalities due to carbon monoxide poisoning, which is 100% preventable. People are like, oh, I don't want my generator out in the elements where I have to go out there and deal with the 100 mile per hour winds. Well, you don't want it inside your house where you're risking your life from potential carbon monoxide poisoning. So make sure you have any gas-powered generator located outside of your house. Right? Another thing to do to make sure that you are in the best situation possible. Those of you that may have EV cars, we saw this with Helene. What happens when an EV car gets flooded, right? The batteries catch on fire, and it can lead to a house fire, and that can cause obviously complete destruction of that structure. So I know, for example, Tampa has opened parking garages for free through next Monday. So take advantage of those. Get those vehicles up on the second or third level toward the interior of that parking garage. That is going to definitely help save your vehicle, because those parking garages are poured reinforced concrete structures. I've never seen a concrete parking garage completely collapse due to a hurricane. Maybe portions of it if it wasn't constructed well, but that is a really good option as a place to store a second vehicle. Let's say you're evacuating and you've got two vehicles. If you're not taking both of them, you can store, a second vehicle in a parking garage or things of that nature. So make sure you're doing that. Also, make sure you guys have a emergency kit available. And what are things that need to be in an emergency kit? Food, water for at least 7 days, right? Because in some of these hardest hit areas, power will be out for at least a week, if not more in some locations. So minimum 7-day supply of food and water for each member of your family. Also, food and water supply for any pets that you have. So if you've got dogs or cats, make sure you have food and water set aside for them as well, right? You've got to really be thinking here. We're getting down to crunch time, where we are now basically getting down to about 24 hours from now, where we're really going to be starting to see things go downhill tomorrow evening across the west coast of Florida. So all of these things really need to be wrapped up by tomorrow early morning into the afternoon, as far as like charging and making sure you've got all your plan in place and different things like that. Also, communicate with neighbors ahead of time. Don't wait until after the storm to get to know who your neighbors are. Go ahead and do that now. Begin talking to them and get to know them. Come up with a plan of what you guys are going to do to help your community out immediately after the storm. Check in with each other as well as you can. Text messages are great. You may not be able to make a call, but a lot of times you'll be able to at least potentially get a text message through, right? So texting is always a great option as well. If the Wi-Fi goes out, you're not going to, again, be able to use apps that require Wi-Fi, but texting you will still likely be able to do it at least till cell towers are completely out and stuff like that. Also, make sure you have a place where you know where important papers are, right? And make sure those are in a place where it's not going to get damaged by water, right? All of those things. So have all of that in place. Get that wrapped up this evening and tomorrow morning, so you guys will be safe down there tomorrow evening and on Thursday, right? Because we're expecting this to really come ashore basically here. According to the National Hurricane Center, we are expecting this to come in around 1 a.m. on Thursday morning. So again, which is terrible that's the timing that we're expecting here. But we can see here, valid 1 a.m. Central, so 2 a.m. Eastern is basically when it will be coming ashore. So overnight is going to be the timing on when we're expecting Milton to come roaring ashore. Let me kind of show you this here. Flip over here. So again, 2 a.m. on Thursday, winds sustained, maximum sustained winds, you can see they're 125 mile per hour with wind gusts near basically category 5 potential. Absolutely not out of the question, 155. So again, the thinking is for it to weaken to a category 3. It is interesting to note, though, that I was looking at some of these computer models earlier. And let me see if I can get back to, here we go. So these are some of the more short-range models here that we are looking at. And this is the HRRR model, or the HRRR model, as I like to call it, High Resolution Rapid Refresh. And we can see here that Milton basically comes in, no, it's not wanting. There we go. So the HRRR basically bringing in Milton here as still a pretty formidable hurricane. Again, just on the south side of the Tampa Bay area there is what the HRRR is leaning to. If we look at another one, this one I thought was kind of interesting, the NAM, North American model, which we typically don't use this as much for hurricanes, but I just thought it was interesting that the NAM actually maintains this basically as a Category 5 hurricane all the way up through landfall, right around 921 millibars there, and then weakens it as it goes across. But again, that's something you have to be prepared for. Yes, it's a Category 5 now. They're forecasting it to be a 3, but is there a reason that it couldn't be a 5 at landfall or a 4? I mean, there's always that outlying chance, right? And this just goes to show you, this is the outlier, right? The NAM showing it coming in basically right into the Tampa Bay area there as a Category 5. So that would be absolute worst case scenario. Is the National Hurricane Center folks thinking that this outlier model is going to be what's going to happen? No, but it is, again, it is an outlier. There is always that potential for that to happen. Let me get back here. If you're just joining the live stream, be sure to hit that like button for me and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Drop a comment as well. Let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in as well. Same thing over to my friends on Facebook that are watching as well. Great to have everyone on here this evening. So this one here is again showing about a 958 millibar. So again, major hurricane there coming in just south of Tampa is what the HRW is showing. Let's take a look at some of our ensembles. I haven't seen these. Ensemble there, yeah, it brings it in just south of Tampa, which I think that is definitely some good news that for folks in Tampa. I mean, this would definitely put you guys still, you know, in a bit of a rough shape there on the northern side of that potential eye wall. But we'll really just kind of see how things shake out there. Also, don't forget there's this risk for tornadoes here. That WC Storm Prediction Center does have a slight risk out for these areas. Really from Tampa up through north of Orlando, all the way down through the Florida Keys with that onshore flow that is expected. Let's check in on our traffic cameras this evening, see how things are looking. I think a lot of the evacuation traffic has started. I mean, I know up in South Georgia and extreme North Florida, there was still quite a bit, but it seems like it's flowing a little bit better here this evening. Yeah, so that's I-75 northbound here at mile marker 343. So I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, that is kind of more northern Florida, Gainesville, Ocala area. 467 is the state line, so 343. That's 130 miles south of the state line. So yeah, I think that's in the Gainesville, Ocala area there on 75. So That's definitely good to see that traffic is flowing pretty well in that area. Let's see if we've got a further south webcam here. 364. $345. Yeah, so it's about the same. Yeah, so there's still some traffic, but it is moving. That's the good news. It is definitely moving northbound there. So that is definitely encouraging news. All right, let's take a look here at some of our timing for what we're looking at. Let's begin with our arrival time of the winds. And this is why I'm saying really by tomorrow we're going to see these conditions really go downhill by tomorrow afternoon. You can see here we're expecting the majority of these winds to begin as early as Wednesday, tomorrow around 2 o'clock in the afternoon there, especially across west central Florida. Basically be having sustained tropical storm force winds there as early as 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So that's why any preparations, if you have any last minute preparations, really need to get those done first thing in the morning. You're probably down to literally maybe 12 to 14 hours left there along the west central Florida area for really wrapping anything up. Even still, it can be hazardous because we've seen some of those rain bands that have been moving through already here across portions of southwest Florida. So let me pull up the radar here. Let's come over here. So let me show you this. So here's the current radar that we can see coming out of Tampa Bay area, and this is exactly what I'm talking about here. We can already see that there is some of these precipitation here out ahead of Milton that's kind of been coming across Florida most of the day. Good bit of precipitation over here, even on the East Coast. We've got some storms here kind of offshore coming up toward the Naples area that we can see there. Here for Naples and Marco Island and those areas, getting some rain coming in. Also seeing a little bit of rain coming here through Bradenton area. This is going to be moving up into the Brandon area this evening. So we'll start to see more of this steady rain begin to move in even this evening through the day tomorrow, and this will just continue to go down through the next 24 hours. But that's kind of what we're looking at there. I don't know if... Let's see what we can see here from Key West. Probably won't be able to see it yet. I think he's trying to pull down the data here. George says, hey, I got family in Lakeland, Florida, trying to get them to leave, thinking they will be okay. I'm not so sure. Lakeland, Florida is on the east side here of Tampa Bay. It's kind of here, basically here halfway between Tampa and Haines City. So it is a county, and so here's kind of the forecast, I would say, for the Lakeland, Florida area. Because I also have a friend here just west of Lakeland, and I have a lot of friends down here, guys, okay? So the Lakeland, Plant City area, definitely going to be getting likely hurricane force winds in this area. Again, they are under a hurricane warning, and the reason they're under a hurricane warning is because they are expected to get those hurricane force winds there, potentially up close to 100 miles per hour. That's definitely not out of the question for places like Lakeland and Plant City. The other threat with that we will see from this is also, let's come back here, the rain, right? Look at, let's take a look here at our rainfall forecast. Look at this rainfall forecast that we are seeing. You can see this huge swath, right? Some of these places, 12 to 16 inches of rain here in the red. This whole orange area could see up to a foot of rain, and that does include Tampa Bay, kind of getting close over toward that Plant City, Lakeland area. They might be just outside of that, but if so, just by a hair. But even if not, still 6 to 8 inches of rain. So this rainfall forecast, we've seen this kind of on that trending up across much of Central Florida now, with many locations, including the north side of Tampa Bay, 12 to 16 inches of rainfall. Folks, that is a ton of rain. That will cause widespread flooding here, right? And that is why now we have that high risk. Okay, this is the highest, level 4 of level 4, that we're seeing a high risk of excessive rainfall and flooding here, which includes Tampa Bay over to Orlando, all the way over to the east coast of Florida. And that's why we're trying to stress so much about this, because it's not just the storm surge. These inland communities are going to get heavily impacted, could have widespread damage from the winds, from the flooding, rains, definitely not out of the question. And this will really continue all the way through Thursday, right? It's going to start tomorrow, and then it will really intensify overnight, tomorrow night, and then all the way through most of the first half of the day on Thursday before it clears out. And then by Thursday late afternoon, we should see Milton. So here's again 2 a.m. and then by 2 p.m. it's here coming off of the East Coast, right? So that's 12 hours. And that's just center of the storm. You have to think that how big the storm's going to be. So some of these places are going to easily be getting 12, 18, potentially 24 hours of rainfall. And that's why we're expecting to see some of these places with this high risk for flash flooding. Another reason is because think of the topography of Florida. It's very flat. There's not a whole places for the water to drain. It has to get to the ocean or to a lake. There's a lot of lakes, right, around this central Florida area. We have a lot of lakes. We also have a lot of canals. We're going to see a lot of canal flooding. River flooding is going to be a huge problem for these areas. All of these different things are going to be going on. So it is going to be a remarkable hurricane for much of Central Florida. And yes, we're hoping that, Tampa doesn't get the worst case scenario that it could, but there is that potential. And really, we're not going to know where exactly Milton is going to make landfall till probably about, maybe 6 hours before landfall. We'll actually be able to say, okay, this is where it's going. But again, it can literally also take one of those last minute jogs to the north or to the south right before landfall. That's definitely not out of the question. So really everyone from Crystal River all the way down through Fort Myers needs to be prepared for a direct hit landfall right on their coastline and in their area. So that's why they issue the hurricane warning for not just a small area, but for such a broad area, because we are expecting these hurricane impacts across such a wide region of Florida. And these counties, I mean, we're talking literally over 4 or 5 million people that are, within this area here in Central Florida. So even those folks that evacuated inland, they ran from the water, which is, I commend them. I applaud them for doing that, for heeding those evacuation orders. I know police were out there going door to door in many of these counties: Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Manatee County, really just trying to get folks to leave. And now some of these places, I think it was as of 7 o'clock tonight, they've already started closing bridges and things like that to some of these barrier islands. So if folks didn't take those evacuations and leave, now at this point it's too late, and they're going to have to ride it out where they are at. So definitely wishing the best for anyone that didn't leave, but I really, really hope that everyone was able to get out. And if not, make sure that you, again, like I was saying earlier in the live stream, have a sturdy shelter to go to that's not on the first floor, that is going to be prone to flooding, rains, and or storm surge coming in. And speaking of storm surge, let's take a look at the storm surge inundation map here again, because I haven't gotten to go over this with you. But again, just to give you an idea, we went through this last night, but it's again just good to go over the storm surge. Why is it not? Let me try and refresh this, see if it'll load. Huh. Well, it's doesn't have everything, but I think we might be able to get at least some of it. Here we go. So again, this is down toward Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Florida area, greater than 9 feet potential. Tampa Bay, widespread, greater than 6 feet. Some places, definitely potential for greater than 9 feet. But the latest thinking is with that new track that the worst of the surge is going to be south of Tampa, but still some places in Tampa Bay could have over 10 feet of storm surge there in Tampa Bay. Then down here through again Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, even down toward Naples, Florida, could see some pretty significant storm surge as well. So definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that, and all of that really depends on the exact track that Milton takes, right? So it is going to be interesting. But I will say again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, I'm definitely seeing that more northward, northeastward motion here really in the last hour or so. I mean, if you put my mouse basically where the eye was and you don't move it, look where it is now from where the point of my mouse it was to where it is now. So you can definitely see that motion there. Let me see if I can run this. Again, those of you just joining on the live stream, welcome. Quebecers pray for Florida. It's our second home. Stay safe. We love you all. Yes, thank you, Jonas, for the comment there on Facebook. Appreciate it. Definitely need to be praying for our friends down here in Florida. I've got a lot of Florida friends that are down here. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to leave this on here for just a few minutes, and I will be right back. I'm just going to grab a drink, and we'll continue discussing Hurricane Milton here this evening. If you're just joining, go ahead and mash those like, share, and subscribe buttons for me. Help us get this pushed out to folks, and we'll be right back here in just a minute. Good evening, everyone. Again, I am back. Thank you for allowing me to step away for just a few minutes there. So as you can see here, we're still taking a look here live at Category 5. Category 5, Hurricane Milton, spinning out here in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico. If you're just joining the live stream, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, be sure to hit that like, share, and subscribe buttons. Depending on what you're doing, send it to a text, send it to a friend, someone that you know in Florida that needs to watch this live stream right now. We are taking your questions as well here this evening, so you can drop your comment in the Facebook Live or here over on YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer those questions as best as I can. I've had a couple people kind of pop in this evening asking some questions. One was asking earlier about the Lakeland, Florida area, and someone from Quebec. Great to see you on here this evening, talking about that we need to be praying for our friends in Florida. It's like their second home, right? And to many people, many even folks that live up in the Northeast, you have a second home down here, right? A lot of people get summer homes, right, down here in Florida, especially in Central Florida, right? A lot of people have vacation homes down here in Florida. So this isn't only just affecting Floridians, it's also going to be affecting many people that live in Florida, that work in Florida, that vacation in Florida. This really affects all of us. Just like Helene did, how it affected all of us, Milton is going to affect all of us one way or another, whether we realize it or not. So really need to be keeping a close eye and paying attention to what is going on down here in Florida these next couple days, because this really has the potential to really alter many communities across Florida for many, many years to come. Some of these places, it will take, unfortunately, years for them to be able to recover and rebuild. There will be potentially some long-term terrain changes even with the coastline and different things like that. We saw that with Hurricane Michael, right? With the storm surge, how it literally cut through, some of these barrier islands and stuff like that. It literally just, the storm surge cut a path right through that little barrier island, and that can happen here again with Milton. And I don't know if you were on the live stream last night or the night before. I've really been trying to do these every single night, and I'll again be having a live stream rolling through the day tomorrow. And on Thursday as well, and then we'll be covering damage and the aftermath and all those things Thursday afternoon, Friday, probably through the weekend and stuff like that. So we really have a long next few days ahead, and really it's going to be a long next few weeks and months ahead for many of these places. Sadly, the hard truth is that some people will go back to what's left of their home, their business, their livelihood, really, right? And decisions will have to be made about that. But just looking here, even at the this satellite picture here, just in the last hour or two, there's really nothing right now that I am seeing as a indicator of really any kind of weakening here of Hurricane Milton, and that is that can be concerning, It almost looks like, again, a little bit that it's contracting in size, so it could be again getting ready to do another one of those eye wall replacement cycles, and we've seen this now. And this is kind of actually something that we are expecting. We're expecting a few more, maybe one or two more of these eye wall replacement cycles. And each time that it does a eye wall replacement cycle, what is happening is the storm will contract, it will form a new larger eye wall, and then once that new larger eye wall has formed, it will then allow the storm to vent and to grow in size and overall diameter. So this is something really here that is actually quite interesting that I'm really seeing here now in about the last hour. And it'll be interesting, you know, if we get kind of here. I really wish I had radar down there so sometimes you can see it pretty good. Let me go to our well, maybe this natural color one. What? Let's go to, I need true color. It should flip it over. Yeah, it's not gonna. That's the only thing about declamp phase. Yeah, really, I guess the infrared is, the long wave infrared is really our best option right now. But it's kind of interesting here, right here we see this kind of on the southern side, a little bit of a flare up of intensity, almost like new ring of really deep convection trying to form. So we'll have to see if we get another eye wall replacement cycle out of this evening. Wow. And I feel like we're starting to see a little bit of interesting motion here on the eastern side. Now this here, over here in the west, this here is all that dry sinking air, right? That you can see here, these clouds moving from north to south. That is all that dry air. And you even see it kind of down here coming into the coast of Mexico. So what we're going to have to watch for here really in the next 24 hours is to see if this dry sinking air, if Milton on the southern side here, if it will actually start wrapping in and sucking any of that dry air in on the southern side. Because once it starts to do that a little bit, that's when we'll start to see that eventual weakening. And I'm not seeing a ton of that. I am seeing here a little bit of some southeastward movement with that in the low levels, but we can still see here these very high level cirrus clouds almost form almost like little cloud streets here, which is the venting there of Milton. But we'll have to see if it can ingest some of this dry sinking air here kind of on the southern side here as it continues to move off to the northeast. And let me go back to, yeah, see here's a view of that. So you can kind of see this yellow area. This is all that dry air that I was just talking about. You can kind of see a little bit more here that is starting to form as well here. So we can get some of this dry air to sink in here and begin affecting the southern side of the hurricane. That is going to allow Milton to weaken as it approaches the coast. But again, still expected to maintain major hurricane status all the way through landfall early on the day on Thursday morning. So we will have to see again, hopefully things won't be as bad. But again, really, folks, I probably won't be live again till tomorrow afternoon at some point in time. But west coast of Florida, you guys need to have everything prepared because you should start experiencing those tropical storm winds. Earliest arrival is 8 a.m. Most of Florida as early as 2 p.m. And then most likely by 2 p.m. Definitely by tomorrow night, 8 p.m. for sure. Everyone should be experiencing those kind of winds. So, but we will we'll keep an eye on, see what happens here. But I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this live stream up this evening. Again, thank you guys, everyone, for joining. Thank you to all of our new subscribers. You guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you also to folks over on Facebook and on my meteorology page. Thank you for tuning in and checking in with me this evening. We'll do another live stream tomorrow, and praying for the best for everyone down there in Florida. Stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys tomorrow on our next live stream.